And here you see, this is my cast of characters for the ingredients that are going to make up the turkey brine here. And it's a very simple recipe that basically just includes salt right here. I always prefer to use like a Mediterranean sea salt. And turbinado sugar is always my sweetener of choice. And then for flavoring, we're going to be using maple syrup here as well. And of course, we're going to be putting some peppercorns in there and some garlic. And you can see here we're going to be cutting up a nice golden onion here. And we're also going to be using a few bay leaves as well in this recipe. Now the brine solution is essentially just a salt water solution which will help keep the moisture inside the meat. And this is really what you need to do to keep your turkey from drying out. Okay, now what you're looking at here is a box of brining bags. I usually buy these either directly from Williams-Sonoma. They come 4 bags to a box, so they should last you 4 seasons. Or you could also buy these directly off of Amazon.com. And this is what they look like. They're basically just large, kind of almost Ziploc bags. Now this is the smaller of the two. There's 2 different sizes that come in the box. Now this is for like a 12-pound or smaller turkey. And they just kind of open up like this, and the turkey goes inside. And it just brines in there overnight. And then they have a larger bag that comes in the box also that will do up to a 23-pound turkey. So whatever size you have, they can handle it. No problem. And this is the turkey I'm doing this year. This one's actually a small turkey. I'm only cooking for 10 people. So I got a 10-pounder here. And I buy this one like at the fresh market because it's a non-frozen turkey. Their turkeys are only refrigerated. There's no artificial ingredients. I've also used the Bell & Evans turkey, which is a very excellent turkey, but it's harder and harder to find in my area, so I can't get them anymore. But Bell & Evans and any of the fresh market and Whole Foods, you always want to ask the butcher counter, how do they prepare their turkeys? Are they frozen? You don't want them frozen. You want them to only be refrigerated from the minute they're slaughtered. So that way you get the freshest, juiciest meat possible. You want to start off with the best possible chance of winning coming right out of the gate. You also want to make sure you wash your hands before you start handling any of this stuff. And you rinse the turkey out thoroughly. You pull all the giblets, the paper, anything that's inside the cavity. And you rinse it in and out thoroughly and then pat it dry with a paper towel. Okay, so here we are pulling out the giblets. I usually throw these away. I have absolutely no use for them. Some people use it. This thought of it just grosses me out. Bye-bye. Now we're going to rinse off the bird. Okay, so here we're just rinsing off the bird. We're going to load him up with water, rinse him out real good in and out, get in underneath all of the armpits and everything. Just think how you would smell if you hadn't taken a shower in a long time. So clean them off really good. Load them up. Okay, now what we're going to do is put them in the brining bag. And there's your final product there. The turkey is now stuffed into the brining bag and awaiting your brining mix to be poured in. Okay, so now in a big pot here on the stove, I'm going to be adding a quart of hot water here. We're going to heat it up, and this will help dissolve the salt and the turbinado sugar a little better. Alright, so now I'm adding in here my half cup of turbinado sugar. I'm going to stir it up there. So this hot water will help dissolve it a lot quicker. Next I'm going to be adding about 1.25 cups of salt and get it dissolved. Now I'm pouring in enough water to make 4 more quarts. And and this should cool it off. You want to make sure that your brine is at room temperature. You don't want to be putting hot brine into your turkey. You're going to start it cooking, so it's got to be room temperature. Okay, so now we're going to dump in my onions that I sliced up here. So this is beginning to look like some weird primordial soup more than a brine, but believe me, this thing will add some delicious flavor into your turkey. Okay, now I've rinsed off this lemon, and I'm using this little tool here known as a lemon zester. What this does is you put it onto the lemon here and you just kind of peel back, and it makes what's called lemon zest. And what that is just little slices of the peel, and you just throw that into the mix. You make about half a dozen of these, drop them in there. Missed. So these will just add some nice little citrusy flavor to the mix. Now I got some fresh bay leaves that I just got at the store today. You always try to use fresh. Whenever you can, you use everything fresh. Throw that into the mix. Stir it up. Get about a dozen or so peppercorns. They're going in. Here we are adding the rest of the ingredients to the brine solution, and once it's all mixed up here, what I'm going to do here next, as you can see, I've put the turkey into the brining bag, and it's in one of my little igloo coolers that keeps it formed up nicely, holds the Ziploc bag open in place there while you pour the brine solution into the bag. And then we'll throw it into the refrigerator to brine overnight for 24 hours. You can rotate every few hours too. And there it is, sitting in the igloo cooler still in my refrigerator. So the igloo will actually act as a backup in case the bag bursts or something. It'll catch all the overflow. 24 hours, see ya. Okay, so you're looking at nutmeg here, and you never want to use the pre-powdered stuff. I always like to grind them myself, so I just pour a few into my little grinder here. Lost one there. And then I just start grinding them up. And you always make it fresh. It gives you a much more aromatic scent, just like you're doing coffee. And here you're looking at my cast of characters for the rub that I'm going to use on the turkey here. And we'll start off over on the left here. We have Miss Rosemary, followed by onion powder. And we're going to use some basil. And we're also going to use garlic powder as well. And a little bit of rubbed sage. And some tarragon. So these are your 6 simple ingredients that make up the rub. And it's very easy and very quick to make this rub. Before I make the rub though, this is a good time right now to start getting your wood chips ready to soak. Now I use apple wood because it makes a much nice sweeter kind of a smell to it, a beautiful wood smell. And we've got this in the Ziploc bag, and we're going to add some water to this bag and fill it up so that the chips can soak for about an hour before we use them. So we're just going to load this bag up with some water. And then we're going to seal it off, but what we do is I force all of the air out. Here's the secret right here. You force all of the air out so it almost acts like a vacuum. That way it'll just make sure that there's nothing but water in contact with the wood here. That'll help soak it better, see? So that even though there's very little air in there, but it'll soak perfectly. Okay, now the key to this is you want to squeeze all of the air out of this bag so that it's left with like a vacuum suction there, and it's going to just keep all of the water in contact with the chips. There won't be any air in there. And that's what gets them wet, keeps them wet. Okay, so now I'm going to make the rub here, and it's very quick, very easy to make. Just going to do 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, and 1 teaspoon of everything else. There's basil, there's rosemary, there's rubbed sage, and tarragon. I'm going to shake it all up. Mix it up real good, and then I'm going to transfer it into a little cheese shaker that will help me disperse it evenly all around the turkey skin. Okay, so this right here is the pretty incredible garlic butter recipe that I got from Steve Raichlin's book, How to Grill. And so I decided one year it'd be cool to kind of melt this butter down and make a basting for it, because it's just such a delicious butter. And it just works phenomenal on my turkey. So I have this here that I made yesterday, and I'm going to melt it down on the pot. I'm going to brush it onto the body of the turkey after I dust it with my rub. Okay, so before we do anything with the rub and the basting, this is a smoker box that I'm going to put inside my grill. And this is just a little stainless steel box that you dump all your wood chips in. And the lid has holes on it, so it keeps the pressure built inside there. And then it just starts smoking once you put the box inside the grill. So I have a gas grill, and this is the way that I am able to smoke. So just because I don't have a smoker like everybody else doesn't mean that I can't make world-class smoked meats. Okay, so here we're dumping some of the wood into the smoker box. And what happens is the lid will just go down on top of that. And when we put it in the grill, it'll start to smoke before long. So I'm going to get it going in there now and have it smoking and ready, so that by the time we're done basting the turkey, we'll just put it right in there while it's smoking. And we'll probably make about 3 of these batches of wood here throughout the course of the cooking. I'm going to cook for about 3.5 to 4 hours with this 10-pound bird here at about 300 degrees. So we'll see how it goes. I can adjust the time and temperature accordingly. Okay, a little note on temperature. When we put the bird in the grill, I insert this probe deep into the deepest part of the meat there, so it'll tell me the temperature right here on the screen here. And usually what I do with some of my thermometers, I have one that transmits it wirelessly, so I can wear the receiver on my belt and go about my business during the day while the turkey cooks, and I can always look down on my receiver there, and it'll tell me remotely what the temperature is, and it'll also tell me the temperature inside the cooker as well. And I also use this other, this is my favorite digital thermometer in the world. It's the Thermopen. It's an instant read digital thermometer. And this right here, you just open it up, and it's a very thin point, so you can pierce the meat without it draining all the juices out. And it instantly tells you at any given spot on the bird what the temperature is. You just poke it. It's very, very accurate. Okay, this is a Granny Smith apple that I washed, and I'm going to cut it up and chop it up into small little pieces there, and I'm going to put it into the center cavity of the turkey. I'm not a big fan of putting all of this stuffing and stuff in there, but this will just kind of permeate some nice apple steam into the turkey as it cooks. Okay, so here's my gas grill, and there is the smoker box off to the right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the 2 burners on the right there underneath it, which should provide enough heat to get that wood smoking. The turkey is going to go over here on the left-hand side. We're going to use indirect cooking heat method, which means that the turkey is not going to be directly over any hot flame. It's going to just be off to the left and receiving the hopefully 325 degree or so temperature that will cook it over 4 hours. Okay, so the turkey has dry aged overnight in the refrigerator, and we're going to pull it out now and start him cooking. We're going to baste him first and then powder him and cook him. Okay, so this is my turkey roasting pan. I bought this at Costco a few years ago. It's kind of cool. It has this little pouring spout right here, So the turkey drips the drippings into this pan, and you pour it out to make your gravy later on. And the turkey just rests on this grating right here that you see. Goes right inside the pan like that, and that's how it cooks. And this right here is the pop-up that comes with the turkey. I generally don't go by the pop-up. I usually just go by my temperature probe. But whenever it says that it's about 170 or so inside, 180, then I know it's ready. Okay, so over here on the stove, we're getting ready to melt the butter. This is that garlic butter that I made yesterday, and I'm going to use this to baste all over the turkey. Okay, so now I have my little cheese shaker filled with the rub that I made just a while ago, and I'm going to evenly spread it all over the turkey here. This will give it that nice, delicious, garlicky, oniony, tarragon, marjorie taste. Okay, so now we have all this wonderful, delicious melted garlic herb butter with nice roasted garlic in it. And we're now going to just baste it all over the turkey. We're going to get chunks of the spices here and start basting it all over. You want to make sure also that you get underneath all the armpits and everything. Get good coverage all around. And we're going to add some more rub on top as well, because the rub doesn't always stick very good when it's completely dry bird. Now that I've basted the whole turkey, I'm going to come back around again with another round of rub, just to make sure that it all sticks. It has something to stick to, like a nice slimy, buttery surface. Now I'm going to stuff some of the Granny Smith apples there inside, and that's pretty much all I'm doing. I don't go hog wild. Okay, so there's the turkey with the temperature probe in it. And there's my temperature unit right there, and it's telling me right now the internal temperature is 43 degrees. And my little smoker box over there is going. So it's time to close the lid. Okay, now we're going to be making some cranberry sauce. And listen folks, don't ever use the stuff in the can, alright? If you want to bring home the gold, if you want people to still be talking about your meal for weeks to come, you got to make it raw. And it's really not that hard. I mean, here's all you need right here. So we have a bag of cranberries. I have about a half a cup or so of some crushed pecan that I got. We got an orange there. We're going to be pulping him momentarily. Got a little jar of cinnamon there, and then in my mixer right there is the nutmeg that I mixed up a little while ago. And of course, turbinado is my sugar of choice, and a little bit of salt. So we're going to mix all this up in the bowl right now. Okay, so we're adding about a cup of water here into the saucepan, and then I'm going to dump the turbinado sugar in there. And you just want to kind of heat the water up a little bit to help dissolve that sugar. Here you can see I'm stirring up the sugar with a whisker. That dissolves it rather nicely. Okay, so while the water and sugar are simmering there on the stove top, I got this nice big beautiful orange here. I'm going to slice them in half. And this little tool that I've got here is called a citrus reamer. See this green thing here? And what this does is it takes the pulp out of the orange there, and it just kind of reams it, And I understand how this orange felt, because this is how I felt when I bought my Washington Mutual stock. Like I was getting reamed as it went from 10 bucks down to 10 cents. So you just kind of push it around in there, and it gets all the pulp out of there. Squeeze in some of the juice. now I got this pear here. I'm just going to cut around the core, get some pieces off of it, and cut them up into some small chunks to add to the mix. I love pears, so this will make a nice little chunky, crunchy flavor to it. And we're just going to add all of these little chopped up pieces of pear into the mix with the cranberry and the orange pulp and the little bit of orange juice that we squeezed in there. Okay, so back here on the stove, here's my cranberry mix here. And I'm going to dump it all into the water there and just let it simmer for about a half hour or so, however long it takes for all of these cranberries to start popping. And you're going to stir every once in a while. Just making like a nice little soupy mix here. Just keep stirring it every now and then. Let them warm up to the point that they start bursting, and they'll turn into kind of a gelatinous type mixture. Now I'm going to dump in a little bit of my nutmeg there. Scrape off some more here. And we'll stir that in. Nutmeg gives it that nice warm, almost a woody, Christmassy taste. Oh yeah. Next comes the cinnamon. That's going to make it nice and yummy. Stir that up a little bit. This is really becoming a fruitful mix, folks. I'm dumping in some Granny Smith apples now. Stir all that up. Throw in some salt. And last but not least, I did about a half a cup of some finely chopped up pecans here. I'm going to dump that into the mix. So this cranberry sauce here is going to be a cornucopia of flavor, folks. And we're just going to let it simmer for a while there. As the cranberries pop, you'll hear them. Now while the cranberries are simmering, it's off to the sweet potatoes. And I'm going to spray the foil here a little bit, and I'm going to put about 5 potatoes here, and we're going to cook them in the oven there for a while. I like to cook them for about a half hour or so until they're nice and soft. Okay, so now it's back to the cranberries, and we're going to stir them up a little bit more. You can see they're still not quite ready yet. They'll need a little bit longer to go here. They want to be nice and mushy. While the cranberries are simmering, now it's time to make the flavoring for the sweet potatoes. So I've added a couple of ounces of butter, 2 eggs, and here I'm adding 3 tablespoons of flour. So we're going to be mixing all of this in with the mashed potatoes when they're done. There I'm using my turbinado sugar, about a half a cup there. That's my sweetener of choice. There's a little bit of salt there. Here comes some cinnamon now. Next we're going to add the vanilla extract. And then after that, we're going to add a little bit of heavy cream, 2 tablespoons of it. We did a that was a teaspoon on the vanilla extract. Now we're going to just mix it all up here. Make sure it's all thoroughly mixed with the whisker there too. You have a nice gooey substance. And as soon as we take the hot potatoes there out of the oven, the sweet potatoes, we're going to mix all of this in there with it. You got to make sure you get all of it stirred up nicely. Should be a nice, consistent looking substance. Now we're going to make a sweet, pasty, crunchy topping that we're going to spread over the top of the sweet potato. So we're starting off with some crushed pecans. I'm adding here 3 tablespoons of flour, and I've already had in there a 1/4 cup of butter, and we're going to add some 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, and we're going to stir all of this up into a nice thick paste. This paste will get spread on top of the mashed potatoes once we put it into the baking dish, and it'll all go right back into the oven to cook a little longer, and this will make a nice crunchy sweet crust up top. These are my ingredients for the gravy, and I always make sure I use the Madeira from Sandeman. For some reason that has always worked out to be the best, and other brands have tasted really cheap, so that's the one I like the most. The sweet potatoes are now out of the oven, and we are mashing them up nicely. And we're going to pour in the mixture that we created just a moment ago. Doesn't look very appetizing now, but believe me, it is delicious once it's all mixed up and cooked in later on. So we just stir it in, mix it all up really well. Here we are dumping all of the sweet potatoes into the baking dish so that we can add the crunchy paste on top and put everything back into the oven and let it cook a little while longer. Here is the paste that we just created in the minute ago, and we're just going to dump it on top. And then we're going to get a knife and we're going to spread it around evenly. You want to get a nice even coverage around the top of this. So your sweet potato gourmet casserole here, what it's really going to consist of is 2 parts. The bottom part will be the normal, typical sweet potato mixture that you see at Christmas time. And then the top part is going to be a sweet kind of a crunchy part. And it is absolutely delicious. You will have your guests raving over this for weeks to come.